Hi everyone, this is Gavin from Gavin's Gadgets. This is the Honor 20 Pro. This is my review, taking a look at the camera, talking about the audio, and at the same time, if you're interested, I'll compare it to the standard Honor 20, so we can take a look at that. And some of you might want to know how it compares to the Huawei P30 Pro. So we'll take a look at all of that now. So if we take a quick look at the Honor 20 Pro, this has quite an interesting setup. It has a 48 megapixel main sensor. It then moves down into having a special 2 megapixel macro sensor. You've also got telephoto, and you also have the ultra wide. So it's quite a interesting setup. The 48 megapixel is at an f1.4, so very wide, very good f-stop on that. The telephoto is f2.4, and that's 8 megapixels. The ultra wide is 16 megapixels, and there is optical image stabilization between on the telephoto and the main sensor. Now, if I then grab the standard Honor 20, just to give you an idea of its camera setup, and if you look closely, you can pretty much see they look similar, but you're missing the 2 megapixel macro, and which also does time of flight. And the other aspects, there's no optical image stabilization on the sensors. So you still have the main sensor at 48 megapixels, but it's not f1.4, it's f1.8. The ultra wide 16 megapixels, and then it's 2 megapixels for the macro sensor and 2 megapixels for the depth. So to be honest, in practice, whilst there's a lot similar with these, you know, if you look at the size, they're all fairly similar, sort of IPS at 6.26. The camera setup on the 20 Pro is much better, and the results are better too, especially when the light starts to dim. I would definitely have the 20 Pro in my pocket. If you look at the P30 Pro, completely different setup. It's got a RYYB main sensor, 40 megapixels. It has a 5 times optical zoom with a special zoom mechanism that's in there, and an ultra wide, and this takes better photos, period. But it's a lot more money. So what you might find those that when you use this, you're actually going to be really happy with the photos that you actually get on this particular phone. Now, if we look further at some of the other specifications and other stuff that's quite unique, the fingerprint sensor is on the side, and as you can see, if I do it again, it's absolutely instant. And personally, this is one of my favorite spots, for second favorite spot. If it's not on the back, there's no delays, no lag. Some of the on-screen ones just have that extra bit of lag. And I'm not too keen on that. This is 1080p, it's 412 pixels per inch, and it does have the Kirin 980. You've got 256 gig storage, 8 gig of RAM, so it's a pretty well equipped phone. If we have a look at, if I just go into the settings, and if I just scroll down to sounds and scroll down, it does have the Huawei hidden sound effects when you plug in your wired headphones. There is no headphone jack, it's USB-C. So that is what you have. If we have a look, you can see, for those that are wondering, that it does have Google, all the Google apps. Let me just show you that's out of the box. I haven't touched that at all in terms of layout. If you look in the tools, some of the extras that you throw in there, compass, phone clone, whatever. But what you will notice, there is no IR blaster. If you look at the top, you would think that that is the IR blaster, but there is no functionality. That's your mic there. Just showing the other side, it's got the dual nano SIMs there. But what I do like about this, if you compare it back to the P30 Pro again, is its size. So if I just stack those, the P30 Pro is a marginally longer. And that extra difference does make, in terms of usability, just having this a little bit shorter, a little bit easier to do, and it's pretty impressive. Taking a look at the camera, you've got the master AI with a toggle on-off switch, so that's fairly straightforward. You've got your various resolutions, so here you can do 48 megapixels AI ultra clarity. I do recommend using that only in bright sunlight, very stabilized, maybe a tripod would help. You have 12 megapixels as the standard resolution and one of the best ones to shoot at. You can have your locations, assistive grid, and pretty much very standard affair with the options there. Now when you switch to video, this is when you can adjust the settings for video, and you can see it does 4K at 30 frames per second. The best quality video is at 1080p, 30 frames per second. It's stabilized, that's one I recommend using. And also when you're actually doing video at that level, you also have access at 1080p 30 frames per second to AI color, where it puts just you, the person, in color and everything around you in black and white. Background blur is like a portrait mode video, and then vintage suspense and fresh just like filters, which do look quite nice. But I say those only work when you're at 30 frames per second. In terms of zooming, you've got 1 touch to 3 times and 5 times. 3 times is the optimum, both in photo, where it does 3 and 5. In portrait mode, you have all the effects in portrait. You have night mode, which is very good. Honor and Huawei do some of the best night modes. And if we look at some of the extras, you've got your AI lens, your pro mode, so you get all your professional pro modes there. You do have traffic trails, light trails, silky walks and star trails. And again, for those, I do recommend using a tripod for the best look, but they are all there. And you've got time-lapse, moving picture, and super macro. With the super macro, you might find, because it's only 2 megapixels for the macro lens, you'll get a better shot using the main sensor. Just something to bear in mind. But how does this camera interface sort of fare compared to, let's say, the actual standard Honor 20? Well, the Honor 20, as you can see, it looks pretty identical. But if we go to the settings, resolution, you still have the same options for the standard photos in terms of quality, so that's good. If we then jump into video, and go to settings, you still are up to 4K, but again, you're better shooting at the lower resolution. You still have all the effects here for the video, but again, and also all the options here in pro mode. But again, what I will suggest is a night mode and all the rest here in portrait mode. What I will suggest is though that the camera quality is definitely better on the Honor 20 Pro, because it has more megapixels. It's got optical image stabilization as well, as opposed to just using AI stabilization or electronic stabilization. But how does this compare to the P30 Pro? Now you see this is an OLED, so you might see like the screen flashing up and down on the video if it does happen. But again, the camera interface on this is very similar. Super macro mode is very good. Basically, the quality across all the lenses is absolutely superb. Your 20 megapixel ultra wide, that's why you've got the resolution there. And if we came, let's just take that off. And then you can see the maximum resolution is 40, because it uses the pixel binning on the 40 megapixel lens. It has very similar, pretty much identical options, but the quality across every option you see here is a lot better. But then there's a reason why this costs a lot more money. But I do think if you're using this, you cannot go wrong. Honestly, I think the quality, I actually prefer the side here to the under screen sensor. If you have a look here, it doesn't always get 100% all the time, mostly does, but you can't go wrong with this, the Honor 20 Pro. It's really, really good. So what you have to do, you have to plug headphones in using an adapter, or use Bluetooth headphones, Audio quality is good, it's very good. It's not up with the best like the Galaxy Note 10, which has exemplary Bluetooth and USB-C audio quality. That is simply the best, but this is very respectable, very respectable. Its main weakness is the camera, that if you want to use 4K video, you really need to keep it really steady. Hold it really steady, not pan too much. If you're walking and stuff and moving, you do want to have 1080p. Now what I will show you just very quickly, if I can find the option, that in slow-mo you do have 960 frames per second in the slow-mo. Some did ask me about that in one of the questions. In terms of camera, let's go and have a look at some of the camera samples. A closer look at some of the camera samples here, just looking sort of between taking auto, and then you can see the ultra wide, and the quality is very good. It really does do a marvelous job. And here we go again, you know, look at that. This is using AI with the blue skies. Zooming in here, so we go back, and this really, you know, far distance away, that's 5 times up there. Just trying to see how fast and how quick it would work if it could focus at a high speed, and it does. And here we can have a look again, really nice photos from the Honor 20. I will put these up just afterwards so you can see them in full off the phone, actually on the video itself. That's really very nice. Here messing around with the ultra wide, and just have some different options here. You know, you can then zooming in. Now what you can do, I don't know if you've seen this, but you ought to check out some of the editing options that exist on this phone. So if you go to edit, you've got various things, standard things, crop, rotate, splash, blur, and adjustment. Blur is quite good because you can just blur a part of the photo. So if we then accept that there, and then go into splash, then if it just makes it all black and white. If we hit the red, you can now have that as your finished photo, and we can hit yes, we can hit save at the top, and now I've got this wonderful looking photo with everything blurred. But you can have the blur that way, lines, and you can adjust the lines or the circular, lots of different options. So do check out some of the options on the editing app. Some fun options in there with filters and such like as well. And as you can see through the car window, it just takes really good photos. What I'll do is that I'll share some of these photos full length after this